Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're plunging into something truly unique. We don't just have a single case file. Instead, we've received three distinct, sprawling narratives that, when you start to lay them over each other, well, they paint this deeply disturbing picture of biological corruption and these ancient things operating just beneath the surface of what we think of as normal life.
That's right. And our mission here is really analytical. We have to look past the sheer horror of these individual stories and start pulling out the common threads. We're looking for, I think, three things. First, the hidden infrastructure, the places that support and contain these nightmares. Second, the nature of these non-human entities themselves. How do they work? How do they compel or assimilate people? And finally, how these massive threats get systematically covered up by powerful forces that you can't even really put a name to.
And that structural element, that architecture of the horror, is the perfect place to start, because we have two completely different starting points for these things. Let's begin with the almost absurd eccentricity of Elijah's Creationist Museum down in Texas.
Right. The setup here is so important because it's the perfect camouflage. Elijah was an incredibly intelligent man. He had a PhD in mathematics, but he poured his entire life into this delusion, a 6,000-year-old Earth where humans and dinosaurs live side by side.
So the public museum, the part everyone could see, was just a joke.
It was intentionally a joke. 60 acres of cheap, hokey displays. You had plastic cavemen harvesting, I think the journal said, wheat with raptor claws, and these ridiculous 16-inch fossilized human footprints.
Yeah.
It was designed to be dismissed.
A bad roadside attraction. But that was just the distraction. The real work, the really chilling stuff, was literally buried right underneath it.
Precisely. When his grandson finds the concealed door, hidden behind a bookcase, the entire tone just shifts. It goes from this kind of comical delusion to just immediate dread. It leads down into a massive cave system that Elijah had built the whole museum on top of. And down there is the real engine of his obsession, a huge bare rock chamber with 8 glass tanks.
And these things were massive, right?
Bigger than cars. Each one was filled with this murky greenish fluid he called elderhide. The smell alone was apparently key to the whole process.
Elderhide. It doesn't sound chemical. It sounds ancient, like it's meant to reverse engineer evolution or something.
I think that's exactly what he was going for. He believed he was recreating pre-flood conditions to force biological change. His journals, they detail all the failures, a rat, a sheep, a cow, but the successes are what's truly terrifying.
Because they hint at a kind of corrupted intelligence.
Exactly. You have a lizard that starts making primitive attempts at speech, and a sparrow that had to be euthanized because it was, and this is a direct quote, screaming obscenities.
Screaming obscenities. Just think about that. That when life is exposed to whatever this stuff is, it doesn't just change. It becomes intelligent and immediately aggressively profane.
It tells you everything you need to know about the nature of the infection. And of course, Elijah's own fate confirms that his exposure didn't bring him closer to God like he hoped.
No, it brought him closer to being one of his own specimens.
A grotesque transformation. He was found in a lower chamber, grotesquely swollen, staked in place, and just breaking down, melting in slow motion. His obsession literally turned him into another one of his failed experiments.
So if Elijah is this example of horror created by one delusional man in a cave, the Jeremy and Hartley Biologics Lab is a chilling contrast. It's the same dark impulse, but scaled up, sanitized by corporate infrastructure.
And the professionalism is what's so fascinating. The entry point is just this remote, unsecured wooden cabin. But that cabin is just a doorway. It leads to a sophisticated, hidden, underground steel facility.
So we go from bare rock and murky green fluid to
steel counters, professional surgical equipment, a table with restraints, clean IV bags. This was not a lone lunatic. This was an organized, very well-funded operation.
And the products of this facility, they're not experiments. They're industrialized.
Right. The source of those creatures that attacked the students, the pale, split-jawed things, they were coming from rows of 8-foot-tall cylindrical pods, all filled with that same viscous green liquid, and inside, just these indistinct, bloated silhouettes.
Manufactured specimens, almost like homunculi on an assembly line.
And when the narrator describes them, he notes their digitigrade posture. They walked on their toes. That implies their biology was designed for speed, for predation. They were engineered to be non-human hunters.
This facility was manufacturing monsters.
No question.
And what's crucial here is that this industrial horror is immediately protected. The cover-up is swift and it's total.
Absolutely. Unlike Elijah's isolated chaos, The Hartley nightmare had immense wealthy backing. Jeremy's family acted instantly. The students' stories, these terrifying accounts, were just dismissed. The official report mentions structural damage, some chemicals, but it explicitly states no creatures.
So the infrastructure isn't just for creating the horror, it's for actively creating a counter-narrative to deny it.
It's about protecting the asset. And the asset is the biological secret.
Okay, this is where things get really complex because these things, these entities, they aren't passive. They actively seek control. Let's look at how they move from being contained to compelling people and then ultimately assimilating them.
You can almost see a hierarchy of control mechanisms. The entity in the museum, for instance, it uses raw, physical, overriding compulsion. When the narrator, Jacob, gets near that metal bulkhead door, the entity doesn't try to persuade him, it just commands him. Jacob, open the door.
And the effect wasn't just in his head, it was physically agonizing.
It was described as a literal hammer swing to the cortex. Blood immediately sprays from his nose and mouth, but his free will is just gone. His hands are already reaching for the locking wheel. It's pure, non-negotiable mental override.
Now compare that brute force to the ancient entities like the cave giants. Their influence seems deeper, more ideological.
Those giants in the cave, they revealed a worldview through a kind of mind sharing. When the narrator encountered Wheeler and that giant creature, its consciousness just sort of spilled into his mind.
It wasn't just pain, it was information.
It was raw, ideological content, images of the Great Flood, Seraphim, Behemoth, Leviathan, and all of it was coupled with this burning, profound contempt for the lesser race, us living ignorantly on the surface. Elijah wasn't just driven mad. I think he was intellectually groomed by that ancient disdain.
So if we shift to the tent city entity, that threat is maybe the oldest of all. It's not even described as a creature, but as a fragment of some vast root system older than the city itself. Its control mechanism is totally different. It's about maintenance. It requires ritual.
That's the key. It doesn't need to open a door or share an ideology. It just demands sustenance through ritual, through periodic, slow sacrifice. The communal humming actually affects the environment. The fire pit reacts, the earth groans, and the assimilation is brutally physical. Reed's fate. Being pulled into that pulsing mass, literally boiling from the inside out.
So it's not looking for quick chaos. It just wants steady, organized satisfaction to stay present.
Exactly.
Okay, so we move from raw command to ideological manipulation to, well, ritualistic feeding. Now let's pivot to the entities that rely on psychological warfare, the ones that want to erase your identity. They operate much closer to our reality. The Marjorie and Caretaker case is a perfect chilling example.
Marjorie's battle was fought for decades, and it was entirely inside her own mind. She had to stay awake constantly to prevent this entity living in her dreams, in her shadows, from fully rooting itself deep and escaping into the world.
And it didn't use force, it used suggestion.
Yes, it offered her all the typical human desires. Fame, wealth, just peace. The caretaker wasn't a guard or a doctor. They were just a necessary barrier, someone to endure the environment so Marjorie could keep up her vigil. It was a purely psychological containment strategy.
And the chilling case with the Averys. That shows what happens when that psychological manipulation is backed up by physical force and institutional complicity, the total methodical erasure of a person.
This might be the darkest twist. The Averys' goal was the complete psychological replacement of their dead daughter, Emily. And they were using their victim, Becca Harper, as the template.
The process was it was systematic.
Isolation, forcing her into the daughter's clothes, fabricating memories, and then constant physical enforcement. The slap, the gun, always present. It was all to make the new identity stick. Methodical psychological torture.
And then the police officer shows up. And that's the moment that confirms the threat has integrated itself into society. The victim whispers, "They kidnapped me. He has a gun." And the officer, he hears it, he smiles, and he plays along.
He reports back, everything seems fine here. That's the moment the institutional cover-up moves from, corporate denial to active personal betrayal. The law itself is complicit in enforcing a psychological nightmare.
It confirms that for these institutions, maintaining that hidden reality is a higher priority than protecting a citizen. So what does it cost the few who actually survive these things? The aftermath suggests survival isn't really an escape. It's more like being marked as contaminated.
The physical scars are one thing, but the systemic ones were, I think, worse. The narrator from the museum, he escapes the fire, but he's got third-degree burns. Critically, though, he's immediately put under intense medical scrutiny. Isolation.
And his body starts showing signs of the mutation he was running from.
Exactly. Doctors start performing amputations without any explanation. The last doctor he sees is wearing a full hazmat suit. He got out of the cave, but the contamination and the institutions dedicated to containing it, they never, ever left him.
And the survivor from the tent city, who actually succeeded, he destroyed that fragment, but he's permanently maimed. Missing an arm, an eye, his survival is just eternal vigilance.
He knows his victory is temporary. The entity is just over for now. And he knows another fragment will eventually appear and someone else will have to fight it.
And then there's the delivery driver from the Hartley case. He gets away physically unharmed, but he suffers total psychological dismissal, official denial.
And the most chilling part is that the triple pay high-risk orders start up again. He's forced to live every single day with the knowledge of those creatures and the system covering them up. He can't prove what he knows, but he can't escape the reality that the horror is still running its delivery routes.
So if you pull back, the patterns are just. They're unmistakable. Across 3 totally different settings, an eccentric academic, a sterile corporate lab, a hidden ancient cult, the threat is consistently about biological alteration, psychological compulsion, and the forced erasure of human identity.
And the institutions, whether it's family wealth covering up biotech, or local police enforcing a kidnapping, or the medical system containing a mutation, they don't exist to protect the public. They exist to suppress the knowledge, to maintain the secret.
The price of this forbidden knowledge isn't just getting hurt. It's catastrophic mutation or the complete ruin of who you are. We've examined entities that twist biology, compel obedience, and erase identity, all of it facilitated by these systems of organized secrecy. Thank you for helping us dive into these truly unsettling sources.
Well, this analysis, it really raises an important question for you, the listener, to consider. If entities that rely on forced identity, like the Averys, or genetic mutation, like Elijah, or psychological assimilation, like Marjorie's entity, if they're operating secretly all over the world, then what mechanisms of control are already normalized in our society without us even knowing? I mean, from subtle suggestions in a dream to the institutional denial of your own reality. How do you defend your sense of self when the threat operates inside your own mind, telling you who you're supposed to be?